Super. All right, thanks very much. Take it away, David.
Right. Okay, thank you. I'll kick off now. Right, so obviously, usual thing, I shall share my screen in time-honoured fashion. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, can see your
Yes.
screen.
Okay. So this is about Iati and the Iati publishing tool. So basically, what I'm going to do today is do an overview of Iati, why Iati it reported its importance, talk a little bit about identifiers and traceability, touch on some of the other tools that are available, and then we'll do the Iati publisher tool and the demonstration. And for a demonstration, I'll go in about landing page, help banners, default values, the org file, activity file, importing files, which is probably one of the key features of the tool, and then some user maintenance and support access. Okay, so what is Iati? So Iati is the International Aid Transparency Initiative. It's a global campaign that aims to increase the transparency of how aid money is spent. And Iati publishers include a huge range of organisations. There's roughly over 1,600 organisations currently publishing. That includes governments, like UK government, other governments across the world, finance institutions, people like the World Bank, then there's NGOs, Oxfam, UNICEF, all of that, and then smaller private sector organisations. Organisations can publish future budgets, location of projects, and results that have been achieved to date, as well as sort of financial transactions, which we'll look at. So what is required from companies? Well, in a lot of circumstances, it's actually a contractual obligation of companies contracted under Fcdo and other governments across the world to publish information about their activities using the Iati standard. Once published, organisations can view these activities via dportal, and dportal is a tool that basically allows anybody across the world to see the data that's being published. And again, we'll have a look at something around that in a minute. Okay. So why is the reporting important? Well, it allows donors to share their spending plans several years in advance, which means that governments and organisations can better plan and coordinate resources. And beyond finances, Iati data allows organisations to share information on their development and humanitarian activities. So things like the results of the projects that they're implementing, how successful they've been, etc. Iati data provides a variety of resources, so it shows how foreign aid, private investments, private finance, etc., is flowing into countries. And of course, the main piece is that all the data is in one place, so that anybody can access this. People can download it and use their own internal systems to provide whatever data science or data analysis they want on the data. This also provides up-to-date information. Obviously, the more up-to-date information it is, the better. So I'll stop sharing here a second, because the next bit I'll show is, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to stop sharing. Oh, God, other people want to come in, 2 seconds. Okay, so can you see my screen again now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of the tools that Iati uses to look at data. So this is called the Country Development Finance Data Tool. And basically, this is all the data that's currently in Iati at the moment. So what we can do here is we can say, right, let's pick a particular country. So I always like to use Rwanda as an example here. So we pick on Rwanda and we say, let's have a look at the aid that's being or going into Rwanda in, say, 2023. So while that loads up, you can see that there's all sorts of different categories, and it's churning away, looking at all the sort of all that data that's sort of sat in the background. Hopefully it'll come up any second now. Okay, and this actually then shows you the sort of power of the data. So here we have a summary of the amount of money that's going to be going or has been going into Rwanda. So you can see that in previous years, the budgeted amount of money compared to the actual value of money going in, there's quite a discrepancy. And then when you look at particular sectors, you can see here that for this current year, things like health we're probably more or less on target in terms of budget and disbursements. But in education, we're actually spending more money on education across the world in Rwanda than we actually budgeted for. So that could be a good thing. But then you can see other sectors are sort of falling a little bit behind. So it gives the governments an idea and other organisations of where they need to target more aid. You can also go down to the level of seeing which organisations are sort of pumping the most money in. So you can see World Bank here, German government, African Development Fund, UNICEF, we've got the Republic of Korea in there. So the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR. So all of this data is very accessible, and we can see that what types of money is coming in, where it's standard grants. So that sort of gives you a flavour of the power of the data. And I think that's the thing that for me that this means is that the more organisations that actually publish data into Iati, the more information that's available. And that means it's those decisions that governments and other NGOs need to make are actually easier to make those decisions. Okay, so if we go back to our slideshow. So one of the key things about Iati is the Iati identifiers. And if you're already using Iati, you'll know about it. But if you're new to using Iati, then it's very important that you understand how Iati identifiers work, because it's almost like your unique reference for your organization and your part of the project. Okay. And obviously what happens within the Iati data is that these organizations and projects are linked together, so that then people like Fcdo can see the flow of money going through. So for example, this is when we talk about traceability. So here's an example of information from dPortal. This was for an organization I was working with a couple of weeks ago called Carbon Trust. So basically what's happening here is that you can see here that the money that Fcdo is sort of granting to Carbon Trust, see their transactions. And then in Carbon Trust data, you can also see that they've got the incoming funds. And what you'll notice here is that there's a reference for the actual organization. So Fcdo's unique reference is GBGov1. And then for this particular project, they've given a reference of GB1 204867113, and Carbon Trust have their own project reference. But by putting both these references alongside these funds, then that's linking it together so that then Fcdo can see where those funds are going in Carbon Trust. What Carbon Trust do then is they work with other organisations further downstream. Let's see, all of these organisations have got their own project identifiers, which is linked into the same project. So that then when Fcdo look at the data, they can see that for the same project that Carbon Trust were using, they are now making disbursements further downstream to the University of Cape Town. And then finally, University of Cape Town, they're reporting as well, and they're showing where the end funds are being actually distributed to partner universities downstream. Okay, so that's the sort of the power of Iati data and why it's important to report the data as accurately as possible and use the identifiers. Okay, in terms of Iati tools, there's a couple of tools that we currently use. There's the registry, which is basically the log of all the organizations that are reporting data. At the moment, there's about 1,600 organizations in there. That includes organizations, big organizations like governments, World Bank, as well as smaller organizations which are just involved in one project. The Iati Publisher tool, we'll come along to the demo of that in a minute, but that's the main way that we would recommend people publish data into the systems. Okay, and then dPortal and CDFD, you've just seen CDFD. These are used by donors and data users to perform validation and analysis on the data. In addition to governments and sort of NGOs, there's also a lot of organizations that actually basically download the data to produce reports about which are then published about how aid is being sort of deployed in certain countries. I think there was one that came out the other day which was about how aid from UK governments is being deployed across the whole of the world, and they'd actually used Iati CDFD to extract the data and to be able to produce that report was then published in journals, etc. So it is quite important that it is, that it's published correctly. And these tools are accessible to anybody. I would really recommend anybody go into the country development finance data tool, start playing around with some of the filters and actually see the data that comes out. It's really, really interesting. Okay. In terms of using the Iati Publisher tool, which we'll come along to in a minute, there's sort of 6 main areas of data input. So the default settings, the organization data, and basic activity data. Activities basically equate to a project in Iati speak. The reason they're not called projects is not every activity in Iati is a project. But anyway, for those 3 sort of main areas, which we'll come along to in the demo in a minute, you only really have to input the information once. You can key it in manually. In the case of activities, if you've got a number of projects, you can upload it via a CSV and there's a template to do it. Yeah. But if you're just involved in one project, it's really a manual upload. Then there's the transaction data. So this is all the money that's either coming in or going out as part of your project. We recommend that these are sort of updated as frequently as possible, depending on how much churn there is in terms of transactions. That could be monthly, quarterly, 6 monthly, or annual. And these can be keyed in manually. I'll show you how to do that in a minute. But also, there's if you're sort of doing a 3-month report or something like that, quarterly, if you've got your transactions, your financial systems, you can put it into a spreadsheet. You can upload it via XLS, and that's a really quick way of getting the data into the system. I spoke earlier on as well about results. So results are the sort of objectives of a project. So, for instance, one of your objectives could be to improve irrigation in Rwanda. So that could be your result. That's your result that you're going to measure. And then your indicators could be the fact that you're going to install a number of water wells each year. And the periods then would dictate that, say, for year 1, you estimated you were going to install 50, but the actual then is you installed 25. And then the following year, you estimate was 70, and you installed 120. So the indicators and periods sort of track the progress and the success of your projects. Okay. So that's it as far as the intro is concerned. Are there any questions at all before I sort of go into the actual publishing tool itself? Sorry, was that a question on this? Oh, sorry, somebody. Yep. Sorry, I can't actually see the people raising hands.
Martina's got her hand up. Martina, right. Do you want to come in?
Hi, yes, thank you. Hi. This is Martina. I'm the program manager for the LIGHT Consortium, which is based at the Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine. Currently, we use AidStream, which is a portal to report on all to be compliant with the Iati. And yes. The question is whether data can be migrated to the Iati publisher, or whether I'm better stick with the AidStream, because then I would have to go and log in and then type everything back into the publisher. That's the first question. Okay. And the second one is, does the Iati publisher checks compliance with Fcdo fields? Fcdo has some mandatory fields we need to complete to be compliant. And AidStream does do the check. So recently there were like few fields that were missing, and it came up as an alert to me. Remember to fill in these fields that are now compulsory for Fcdo. Does the Iati publisher help us and gives me that information about compliance?
Okay, so the first one is yes, you can migrate the data to Iati Publisher tool. That's not a problem. We can arrange that. Did you say you were at Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine?
Yes.
I thought you'd already actually were actually already on the tool, but perhaps not. Perhaps again.
They are the institution is, I think, but of course there are many grants held within the institution. Yeah. Okay,
so migrating the information over is not an issue. We can arrange to do that. In terms of the validation, there's the AidStream as you quite rightly point out, is a separately developed tool. Now, there are there's something called Iati Validator, which checks file submissions, and that is based on the Iati standard. That isn't built into HStream. So if if you publish via HStream, you don't get that validation against the Iati standard, whereas you do with the Iati Publisher tool. Specific Fcdo fields, I'm not sure, because I don't know which fields they are. They may be mandatory within the Iati Publisher tool. They may not be. I don't know. So I guess that's something we would need to check. But I know that as far as the Iati Publisher tools, what we're looking to do is one of the things on the roadmap is to enhance it to be able to track the mandatory fields for Fcdo, and there's also the Netherlands Foreign Office user tool called Metis, which has slightly different validation as well, and to build those in as well to that. So yeah, so that if you signify that your donor is a particular country like Fcdo or Netherlands, then we will perform additional checks. That's not in there at the moment, but I'm not sure whether the Iati validator checks that we currently do are sufficient to cover the Fcdo ones. I guess that's something we could take offline, and if Kim, if you could sort of forward a list over to me of what those fields are, then I can sort of certainly check to make sure whether they're included. And if they aren't, then we can probably get those added in quite quickly.
Yeah, I will do that. Made a note of that. Thanks, David.
Okay. Any other questions so far? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to log into and sign up for the Iati Publisher. So when you initially go to Iati Publisher, this is the screen. You've got the sign-in screen here, or you can join now. If you click the join now, you've got two options. One is to say that you're new to Iati, or that you're already registered with Iati. So in the case of Liverpool School of Tropical Medicine, if you're not set up, you would come in here to set, because you're already registered with Iati, but you're just using a different tool. But if you're brand new to using Iati, you would come in here. And what you basically do is you just fill out all the information that you need to do. So you can say I'm a new publisher. You create your own org ID, and what you'll notice here is that on the screen as well there's these little question marks, so that if you are unsure what the information is you need, if you hover over the question mark, it'll give you some help as to what information is required. So I could then say that I'm based in the Ukraine. I've got a registration of the United Ukrainian State Register, and I give it a number, and you can see that down here, as you go through, it's automatically creating the organization ID. So something that HStream doesn't do is to create that org ID for you. You have to go off and sort of work it out yourself, but the publisher tool basically creates it for you. Once you've done that, I won't go through all of the screens, but you create your contact information, which your emails, etc. And what will happen then is that you will come back and you will have the account will be set up with your password, etc. Okay. What you'll notice here as well is at the bottom of the screen, you've got some additional information here which will help you, links. So there's a link to the user manual, so you can download that. That's a PDF version. A lot of organizations find that by having the PDF version open, if you've got two screens, if you've got the PDF version, the manual open on one screen and then the Iati tool on the other, they can use that. If I go back to sign in now, once I've completed, I can then sign in. Okay, ignore the first screen that comes up because this is from a sort of an administration point of view. But well, let's see. Oh no, it's University of Liverpool. I got mixed up. Okay, so you're not actually on the Iati Publisher tool yet. Right, so once you've logged in, this is the screen that you will actually see. It automatically defaults to the your activity screen. So there's a number of different settings up here, or menus. You can see as I hover over the various menus, it sort of highlights it underneath in blue. So the first one I would go into would be the the settings, which gives me the publishing settings. So here, the API key, which allows me to communicate with IATI registry, has been created. That's done automatically within IATI Publishers tool. Not sure whether that's you have to do that manually within HStream, but anyway, it's done automatically here. You can then also complete some default values. So basically, the default values are used in the IATI Publishing tool for fields which are used on a number of occasions. So for instance, if you think about currency, if you've got 50 transactions to key in, if you go down the manual route, you have to key in the values every single time and the currency every single time. So what this does is that if you leave those fields blank anywhere within the activity, when you come to publish, the tool will pick up the default value and put it in for you for the publication. And there's a number of different default values that can be added in. Okay. If we go on to the organization data, so the organization data and the activity data are very similar screens in terms of data input. And what it's made up of is you've got a central part of the screen, which is your data. And then on the left-hand side, we have a progress visualization and the elements that you need to populate. So for example, on this one here, I can see that there's if I filter on the core elements, I've got two core elements. Core elements are indicated by interlocking gold circles, and the two ticks indicate that I've completed that information. So as far as that's concerned, I'm fine. And that's 33% of the information. If I sort of went into total budget and added a bit of information here, I could say I could have an indicative budget of and once I've completed all the data entry, I just click on save and exit. And you can see that then the total budget there has been updated with two little ticks, and my publication progress has gone up to 44.44%. And then that gives me the ability to publish the information. So for that organization file, that will then go off and publish. And then I think if I go to registry, should be able to see. This is live data now. So as you can see, so for the grand bargaining test organization file, so that's the one. So I just published the data. So that's now available for anybody to look at. Okay. So if I go into the activity data, so activities, or as I said earlier on, relate to projects. So you can have any number of projects here. You can add a new one manually. You can give it a narrative. So I'll say for Fcdo demo. You can see straight away what's happened here is that I've given it an ID, but it's automatically taken my organization identifier and added on at the end the Fcdo demo as a name. So that gives me my unique identifier. Okay. So if I go back to the one I was looking at earlier on, wrong one. Sorry. So this one here, as you can see, with activity data, there's a lot more data to be completed, and you can see that there's all these fields have yet to be completed. If I filter on the core elements, I can see which ones haven't been completed. So if I go into add the description, I can say for this project, it was a general. add a general description in, and you can see now that this one's gone up to 75%. Okay, so you go in and fill out all the various fields, and that's when you're ready to publish, you click the publish button. So one of the things that you can do that actually helps is the manual upload. Sorry, the automated upload via Excel. So if you look at the transaction file, so here's the transactions. I've currently got one transaction in the file, which I only put in a few hours ago. But if I had a large number of transactions, what I can do is I can actually, I come out to the activity screen. What this allows me to do is to download the information into an XLS file. So what this will do is you'll see now that it will start downloading the file. There's 4 files which get downloaded. One is the basic activity, one is for results, one is for indicators, and one is for periods. In terms of transactions, we actually only need the main activity file. So I'll show you what the activity file looks like. So when it gets downloaded, this is what it looks like. It gives you some instructions and settings. So this tells us what the activity file was, etc. And let me just change that. I know I need to change something else. So what I'll do is I'll just say that. So what I've done here is I've gone into the transaction tab. And it comes up. I've gone into the transaction tab and I've actually added in more transactions, so a whole sort of raft of transactions. And then if I close that down and I go into the add import function, I should be able to pick up that XLS. I say that I only want to upload the basic activity one. I go to where I know this file is. What should happen then is it should do some basic validation on the file. Yeah. So take that as a new one. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about this. Okay, I was hoping to show you that one, but that one doesn't work. Let me see if I can get it working in the staging database. No. Okay. Okay, so I can't show you that. Basically, what would happen, unfortunately, our test database is down this morning, so I was hoping to show it in there, but I've had to use a live system, and obviously the live system doesn't like the validation. But basically, what would happen is that when that spreadsheet is uploaded, all the rest of the transactions would show there, and what you can do then is you can then just publish the data. Then the validation will take place of the data you've entered. I can publish anyway, even though there's errors on this, because I can then go in and rectify those errors or check them. But as you can see, it's being published. activities being published, and any errors that it's found, I can actually go in and see what the reason is. So this one says collaboration type, so it means the description's missing. So I can just go in and just change the description. But if I go back again to the registry and refresh that, that's the live one. You can see there that that activity file that I've published is actually there. You can go into it, and I can download the XML, and it shows me all of the information that's being created. I'm actually going to go out in and unpublish this information because, as I say, I had to use the live database this morning rather than the test one, unfortunately. So that's the add and the import functions. And the last one that you can that we've got is users. So what you can do is you can add as many users to your publisher account as you need. So if you've got, say, 4 or 5 different project managers working on 4 or 5 different projects, you can add them in as individual users, and then they can just be responsible for updating their own activities within the system. One other little thing I think I forgot to mention was I showed you about the help buttons. So if I go in here, I showed you that you've got actually a little question mark that gives you information. That'll actually give you a link as well to the Iati standard, which gives you more information on individual fields and what's required. But there's also a help button here, and if you click that, it'll give you some more sort of user-friendly type of help that allows you to sort of understand what fields are required. And as a last resort, what we've got is a little support button here. If you click on the support button, put your name, email address, and how you need some help, that will actually automatically create a ticket with the Iati help desk. So whoever sat on the Iati help desk will get that ticket. It'll capture the screen you're on, so they'll know exactly where you are when you sort of created that message, and then I'll be able to give you some help in order to sort of resolve that issue. Okay, so that's probably the end of the demonstration, unless there's anything in particular anybody would like to see. I can see I've had a question from Martina regarding core elements. Yeah, so Martina, it depends on what you mean by compliance in terms of Fcdo compliance. Iati works on the basis that all data is good. The more data we get, the better. So we don't really sort of have a concept of mandatory elements. But core elements are ones which we suggest you populate to give the best chance of your data being usable by data user downstream. So as you saw, you could actually create an activity with just two fields completed, the name and a description, and you can publish that. The data won't be meaningful to anybody because the rest of the core fields haven't been completed, but you still could publish it. Does that answer your question, Martina? Okay, no problem. Perry Williams.
Hello, hi, I'm Perry from Loughborough University. I have a quick question. I'm hoping you might be able to help us with that. So our program is climate compatible growth, and we are a huge program. We've got £7.6 million per year and 9 collaborative partners. So when we receive funds from Fcdo, they get disbursed to 8 of our partners, and some of the funds remain within the lead partner institution, which is University of Loughborough. Yeah. And then within University of Loughborough, we use that money for travel, for research, we use it for people's salaries, but we also use it for individual projects that are aimed at particular partner countries, which is low to mid-income countries. So these projects, low to mid-income countries ones, are usually subcontracting one disbursement, very, very easy to identify. The other projects that partners do, and we are now going to process of projectization, splitting works into meaningful units into small projects, are very fluid, and there is no specific amount of money attached to this project. So they have funding, and with that funding, they work on this project. So they will be able to tell us, for example, what percentage of their overall annual funding will go on particular piece of work. But we are never going to have a specific amount, and we're not going to know the actual cost until the end of the year, and they've actually made a claim and said, yes, actually our claim is 100% of the funding. We told you that 35% would go towards this particular project, and this is what the cost is. But that might well change throughout the year, because our project has got so many moving parts. So how would we deal with this the best? Would you be happy for us to just record that we disbursed X amount of £1,000 to our partner institution, and that will be cross-country, applicable to multiple countries? Or would you need more detail for that, which would be very, very, I guess, much a guesswork until we reach end of the year and we know what the final figures for everything are?
I don't know whether that's a question for Iati or Fcdo, to be honest. I guess in terms of Iati, what we would expect you, or we would think you would do, is you would record the disbursements to organisations as and when they happen, and then if you have to then come back at the end of the year and either change that or update the information that you've got, then you would do it at that point in time. I mean, Iati data is about forward-thinking budget. So if you know how much money you're going to spend, or you think you're going to spend, then that's good. But it's also, a lot of it's looking back at historical information as well, and how money's been spent. So all the data is important. I guess I'd probably answer the same question: is how do you manage that at the moment in your own internal systems? And however you record it, because I presume you have to record it somewhere, then that's how you just replicate that in Iati. That's what I would say.
Okay. It's very, very, very complex, super complex. So we are now going into processes of trying to work it out and make it a little bit more manageable in many aspects. But I think because Iati is so specific, you need to do this. For some things, we can be very specific and let you know what it is. For others, it's very, very difficult to do that, because and is the focus on amount of money and funds, or is the focus on a target country? That's another one I think I would like to ask, because if it's in target country,
recipient, you've got an option of, you've got recipient countries or recipient regions. So if you're saying that you've got a budget for £1 million, yeah. If you know it's going to Rwanda, then you can say it's Rwanda. If you know it's going to a recipient region, which could be sub-Saharan Africa or something like that, then you could put that in. And you've also got the ability to just, I think in recipient region as well, there's a code for undefined developing countries. So that more or less sounds like it's a catch-all. That if you don't know where the money's going and you're just giving it to an organisation, it could be anywhere in the world, then I would suggest you use that until you can then break it down to a more granular level at some point later on.
We do know where it's going because we've got specific set of countries, but more of a challenge is working out how much exactly is going into each. Because the expenses there are so many different things, and people's salaries, for example, somebody may be working on this, that, or the other, some other project comes on. So it's very, very fluid and changeable, and it's very difficult to establish how much of a percentage of somebody's time that's gone on to specific work on specific country, because it's so a lot of things are just so
we do get a lot of that. I've seen the question from a number of organizations where they have people who are project managers flying all over the world for different projects, and what they generally do is they either put it into their own UK budget. So because obviously with outgoing money, you've got the option of classing it as a disbursement to a third party country, or your expenditure, which is internally within your organization. So you can class it as just expenditure.
Okay. So if we disburse amount of money to University of Oxford, and that money is going to be used for their salaries, for some internal stuff, their overheads, but also for their work in countries. It will be very difficult for us then to break that down into.
Yeah.
Well, this is complexity I'm talking about. But this is something I can probably go back and discuss with our Iati expert within the university. Because I think we've done Iati before, but I think we could do a better job. And I'm just quite keen from your point of view to hear.
Yeah, where it's where you've got the money going to another organisation and then they're dispersing it further down the stream, it may be sufficient just to say that it's University of Oxford and they're the recipient country is the UK, because they'll be the ones that are responsible for reporting the aid or that's going downstream into the actual partner countries.
Do you think that partner institutions would then have responsibility to do IATI entries for themselves? Because
it's a question for Fcdo, but I would certainly expect them to be doing it. Yeah.
Okay, that might be a complicated thing. Okay.
Can I just jump in quickly? So it is the responsibility of all organisations along the delivery chain to report to IATI, but also we understand that as you go further down the delivery chain, chances of them actually reporting probably get less and less. And so ideally, the first, like you guys, first tier delivery partners would also in your IATI entries have the beneficiary countries as well. So we can capture that information perhaps in two ways, you know, if the second tier delivery partner also report to IATI and then give the beneficiary country, that's great. But then also if they didn't report to IATI, you would also have the beneficiary country from your entry as well. So in that case, you could have the recipient as the University of Oxford, but then you can also specify the recipient country or the recipient region as the sort of benefiting country. Yeah. So it would be University of Oxford and then Rwanda.
Okay, that will be probably 8 different countries, so I might have to put just 8 different countries. So
yeah, but you can specify multiple countries.
Okay, and then you're suggesting that then University of Oxford will have to go and every money that they receive, they will then have to granulate that within what they've spent it on.
In theory, yeah. Okay. In an ideal world.
Yeah, this is new for us actually. So yeah, okay, thank you.
We got a hand raised from Georgie.
Hi, yes, thank you. I wanted to go back to basics a little bit, if that's okay. You've obviously presented to us on Iati Publisher, which is great, thank you. I'm from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and we've been publishing via AidStream, and I manage one of, I think, 13 that are on there, activities that are on there. Is there an expectation that we need to transfer that to, like, manage it through Iati Publisher, or are we okay to continue via AidStream?
Yeah.
And link to, oh, sorry, yes.
Sorry, yeah, yeah, you're definitely fine to carry on publishing via AidStream. That's not a problem. The only thing I do say to people is that AidStream is run by a third-party organisation, and they're not a non-profit company. Yeah, so a lot of the features which we've got in Iati Publisher tool are only available via AidStream if you use the pro version or the paid for version. And you can, you know, so it depends. If you're publishing one project and you know that's it, it's a one and done, then I think AidStream is fine. It's not a problem. If you've got a continuing requirement to publish information and you want to use things like the upload, download, the Excel features, if you've got more than, I think it's 10 projects on your system, then you start needing to use the paid version of AidStream. So it's very much a question of, yeah, you know, AidStream virtually does exactly the same thing as Iati Publisher tool. There's a few different things, the way validation works, we've already seen, etc. But by and large, they do the same thing. The only difference is Iati Publisher tool is and always will be free. So.
That's interesting to know. Thank you, because we do have 13 on there, and I can't see that we have the pro system.
No.
I'm in it at the moment, but I did have another question. So, in my program, for example, we have completed all the information on there, but you mentioned something about reporting via Iati Publisher, and that's not something that we upload all financial transactions. Every field in there is complete, as far as I can tell. But is there, maybe this is an FCDO question for Kim, is there an expectation for report sort of milestones and reports figures to be included? Because that's not something that this seems to provide.
You can still do that via AgeStream.
Okay.
I think. Again, I don't know. I don't know. It may, again, that may be one of the paid for versions.
Maybe.
I think the only thing that might be different. Sorry, what did you say your organisation was?
London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
And I was just checking. Yeah, so so your activities do go through the validator, and that was all okay. So yeah, I was just checking to see. So yeah, I would say carry on using AgeStream. I think if you've got 13 activities, they may not. AgeStream have some sort of thresholds whereby they start saying that you need to purchase the pro version. But from my experience in talking with organizations, they're not great at actually enforcing that. So although you've got 13 activities, you may not have to pay for it, but I would think you're certainly on the threshold where they may start contacting you and saying you need to move to the pro version. But I would probably, in your case, I'd probably wait until it happens.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much.
Can I just quickly jump in, Georgie, just on your question? I think that's probably a question for the FCDO program team, or your contact with them. Just ask, just double check about what you should be publishing, because I imagine you have like agreements with them. But if you want to send me a message, that's also fine, and I can pass.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, yeah, I agreed with a predecessor, not Anne, not the SRO, about what should be uploaded onto Iati, and it didn't necessarily include results, but that might have changed with other requirements. So I'll talk to her when she's back. Thank you.
Okay, no worries.
Martina.
Hi, thanks. Just continuing on this discussion, there were some fields like that apparently Fcdo added that are now compulsory on AgeStream. And just to go back to what Georgie was saying, in order to have those fields even visible on the side of the AgeStream portal, we had to migrate to the pro version. So what David was saying is that that's the kind of thing they do maybe. So there were 5 extra fields that there was a big exclamation mark, and felt like we were not complying with the minimum requirements to meet FCDO requests. So if we wanted to, we had to go to the pro version. So it's both on the number of projects that an institution can publish, but also within your project, there are some fields that you can only unlock if you go pro. So just check with your SRO, as you said, with other fields that you need. Yeah.
That's interesting, Martina. I didn't know that.
Okay.
As I say, if anybody is currently using AgeStream, we are quite happy to facilitate the migration of the data from AgeStream to Iati Publishing Tool. We've got an agreement with the development team in AgeStream, because obviously a lot of the organizations are organizations which don't have the pro version, so they're actually supporting, although they're a profit-making company, they're supporting people who aren't actually paying anything. So they're quite happy to have organizations move across from AgeStream to Iati Publisher Tool, because it takes away some of their overhead. So yeah, so if you wanted to migrate to the publishing tool, we can arrange to do that. We actually managed to migrate user settings as well, so you wouldn't have to do any of the registration or anything like that, and even your username and password would be the same in Iati Publisher Tool as it is in AgeStream. So it's a fairly smooth and painless exercise. Hopefully.
That's really good to know. Thank you. I'll talk to our research office about maybe doing that.
The only thing I would say is that the way that AidStream work as well is that if you do migrate to Iati Publisher Tool, you can't then go back and start using AidStream. They won't let you use both. But if you are using AidStream, you can actually still use Publisher Tool as well. But you just have to maintain. You could maintain projects in different systems if you wanted to do that. But you know, it's up to you. Sorry, I saw a hand come up then, but I'm not sure whether it went back down again. So Perry, the contact regarding migration is me, but I finish with Iati tomorrow. So what you'd have to do is just send a message via the Iati help desk, which is support at Iati. If you send a message to support@iatistandard.org, that'll come through to the help desk. Put in the subject title is migration from AidStream to Iati Publisher Tool. Put down your information, and then they will sort of instigate that conversation. It generally takes probably about maybe 4 or 5 days from the request to the point where the actual migration has been completed. That's generally, as long as there's no sort of hiccups. The development team for AidStream are based in Nepal, so they work on a slightly different timescale to us in the UK. So sometimes it can be a bit of a challenge to sort of get communications going back and forth. But yeah, normally about 4 or 5 days, and if there's no problems with the data, it's a straightforward exercise.
And Viola's got her hand up.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see that. Apologies.
Yes, hello. I have
Hi.
a very specific question there, and maybe not everyone is interested in this. We are reporting also via AidStream, and I just took over in 2022, and did upload a file and got information, an Excel file, got information that the upload was successful. And then our partners at Fcdo told me that they can't detect our data. GLMNIC is something you might wouldn't find. I'm from the Forschungsinstitut zu Zukunft der Arbeit in Germany. It's IZA, and maybe you can find this with you. And I opened here on my desktop the reporting page.
What's the name of your organization?
Forschungsinstitut zur Zukunft der Arbeit.
Sorry, could you spell that?
Let me just copy this into the chat. Just give me a second here. Okay, here we go. Sorry, the activity file has come with.
Let me just see if I can.
Yeah, and what I see on our reporting page here is that apparently the people who worked before me on this did try to upload something which they didn't manage. And then we had a long discussion with our partners at Fcdo and a lot of help. And finally got to the point where I could upload another file, and this was told me by the system that it is successful. But apparently there's some other issues, and we can't figure out.
Okay. So your activity file, there's nothing wrong with your activity file. But in terms of the organization file, there's an error in the data.
Okay.
There's a tool called Iati Validator. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
which basically is a tool where whenever anybody publishes any data, it has to run through the validator file, and this is what we'd use to make sure the data is in the correct format. So if you, I've put a link in the chat for you. If you follow that link, that shows you that the organization file is showing a critical error, and the error is at line 3118. It's a premature end of data in tag P line 2909, whatever that means. So I think it's something to do. So did you use AgeStream to create your organization file?
This is actually something I can't answer because it was the person who worked on this before me, and I can't just ask for this anymore. But I can have one of our data specialists looking into this now. So problem is that why the people from Fcdo can't see our data is that our organization data needs to be adapted, and only if this is corrected, the uploaded data is displayed properly, right?
Yeah, I'm just looking at, I mean, your activity file is fine.
Yes, this is why we had been so puzzled.
It probably the easiest, probably the easiest thing to do here is to actually just delete the organization file. I can see what it is that the organization file, the organization file is a HTML document.
Okay.
So, and obviously, yeah, what they've done, I'll tell you what, I'll share my screen and show you now.
Okay.
So if you look on Iati registry, where are we? Find the word. So this is your registration page.
Yes.
In Iati registry. So this is the organization file. So what they've done is they've actually referenced your website as the data file. So basically what it's trying to do is they're trying to publish your whole website as a file of standard data. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I go in here and I manage this file. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that. Okay, so now when we go into now you've just got the activity file. If you go into AgeStream, I think what you can do, because I can see your account in AgeStream, is if you go into your where does it say organization tab here. So you've got information here. So if we do that, mark as complete. I've did AgeStream know that we use their system as well. So I can go in, I can publish it via AgeStream for you. All right, so if we then go into here, we refresh this. There you go, done.
Perfect.
Sorted.
Thank you so much. I really took a lot of time and couldn't figure out, and yeah, this helps a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that saved you raising a ticket as well. Yeah.
Yes, because I have a lot, more to update, but I didn't want to do before I did know that it is displayed at the end.
Yeah, okay. I mean that is one thing I will say about AgeStream is that because we again because they've got a free version of their tool. If you're using the free version, they allow the Iati help desk certain access into the tool because it basically saves them money. So something like that, if you'd have gone to AgeStream, they would have had to sort all of that out for you, and that would have cost them money. And obviously, you're not paying them. Whereas you come to Iati, we can go in, sort it out. And, so if you have got certain queries about AgeStream, we can help on the Iati help desk. But there we are. Anyway, that one's sorted for you. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, David. I think we're at time now. I've gone over a little bit. Sorry, everyone. But if you have any more questions for David, then either drop me a message and I'll pass them on. But of course, David, your last day is tomorrow, so
Yeah.
good luck with what's coming next. But yeah, if no one's got any immediate questions, I think, yeah, thank you again, David, for your time this morning, and thanks
Do you
everyone
want
else.
to stay on after the call when everybody's left a second, just to catch up? Have you got 5 minutes?
Yeah, I've got 5 minutes.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. Hope you enjoyed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.